everyone, this is Cyrus.
And Cory, I'm back again. I do not know how this keeps happening.
And welcome to the Gowns and Crowns podcast, where we talk all things pageantry. Well, today I think we're going to discuss, since we have Cory, our infamous makeup artist, back with us, we're going to talk about the emotional roller coaster of makeup, from getting ready, your prep for your pageant, to actually participating in your pageant, and then I would call coming down off the makeup high.
Correct.
After the pageant. So Cory, why don't you kick us off?
Correct. Well, thank you. Makeup is obviously a vital part of pageantry. However, the emotional intensity really can kind of skyrocket you to success or totally make you go the opposite direction. One thing that Cyrus usually does for his clients that I also have taken on and adopted and kind of like to merge with our makeup prep is he would have Pageant 911 kits. So today I kind of want to do an overview of some good tools and things for you mentally that you can merge with your makeup to make sure that you have a positive mindset throughout your whole pageant experience.
I notice a lot of times, I'm glad Cory wanted to do an episode on kind of the mental framework that it takes, not only to be in a pageant, but to prepare, and that starts with your makeup. I've seen a lot of girls completely melt down in the makeup chair. And it's because they came had nothing to do with the makeup artist. It's because they came into the makeup artist's room with the wrong mindset.
The wrong mindset or the wrong plan. Because, for instance, if you're type A and you have to control every aspect, pageants probably will change that and teach you cannot control everything. However, if you are type A, what I suggest, let's get a plan together for your makeup. I like to have like foolproof backup looks for girls planned that emotionally that day, if you look a certain way with a certain type of eyeliner or certain colors or hues that really enrich you and make a statement, do what feels good for you. So you can always have like a backup too. Because when you go in with a certain vision and then if you micromanage it for every single hair, you're setting yourself up for failure versus how you look versus what pageants really are about is the internal as well. And you can merge both of those together.
I think when you micromanage anything, and that's kind of a life skill, in my opinion, is trying to sit back and not micromanage. But I think if you are that personality, well, here's the thing, you're talking about a type A personality. I found that when it comes to makeup, every girl all of a sudden becomes a type A personality. Girls who usually...
It's the pressure.
Yeah, they're usually laid back about things, and then it's time to get their makeup done, and they're just like, oh my gosh, there's one little... The color doesn't blend, right? I'm like, girl, no one's going to see that.
Correct. And one thing too, though, just as, we'll get into it, but I'm glad you brought that point up. Little imperfections. Of course you want a flawless makeup look and you want to look polished and together. But if there's some minuscule little smudge here or something, it's about who you are as a person that should really carry you through the pageant. I've never seen a judging panel that says, well, we're not going to crown her because that lipstick shade was just a little too much.
Yeah, what they do is they're going to crown you and then say, maybe try a different lipstick at the next pageant. I think another thing that's important for girls to know also, which I'm a big advocate of, I'll have to let Cory speak for himself and his team. But I think if you are that girl that you're looking for some level of perfection in your makeup, then you should do a trial prior to the pageant.
100%.
That way, not only do you know what you're getting what you feel like you're paying for. Yeah, you may have to pay a little bit of extra to get that makeup artist to do the trial, but at least you're not showing up sight unseen, having one vision in your head, and then the makeup artist doing what he thinks is going to work best for stage, and then there just being the collision in the middle of not communicating to that person exactly what it is you want.
That is a very valid point, and especially if you're going to a national pageant and you're going to work with the team that you've been referred to, or sometimes certain pageants work with only certain artists that are allowed to be on site and back there. So you can even do a FaceTime or Zoom to get to know and talk. Because sometimes when you're working with a new novice client, everyone's opinion when you're working with your client is important, but sometimes girls do not understand, especially sometimes my blonde. When you're getting on that huge stage and want to look great, your brow needs to be a little bit darker, especially on the tail, or you're going to look like you have like half an eyebrow on stage, and no one wants that. But in person, they're going to be like a little freaked out sometimes. But then when they see the pictures and they know, but that's where, you know, there's a difference between your interview makeup versus your stage makeup, which we've covered and gone on with that before. But the one thing that I was really wanting to talk about specifically with this is you have to embrace the imperfection when you're doing this. Like we were saying, with the Pageant 911 kit, you need to have your products, your techniques, your colors, your things that you know, which will complement your wardrobe, but also make you feel good about yourself. And if you're doing it yourself, say positive affirmations while you're applying this, have a good positive outlook, because intent is everything. Mm-hmm. It really is everything. Because you can see some of the most, and I have had this, and you guys know who you are, some of the most gorgeous clients ever, but they just had a terrible, horrific attitude and nobody wants to be around them. And when she's on stage, she might look perfectly flawless, but a girl who's just thrilled to be there and living for every moment
is going to glow.
Is really going to glow. And it just gives you that little extra factor that really kind of brings the internal to the external. And even though I'm just a makeup artist, I'm fascinated by the psychology about that. And that's really what I try to encourage other people to do within themselves.
I love when a girl gets up on stage and they have great makeup and they have a great wardrobe, but all of a sudden you just see them. It all works hand in hand.
The client eclipses the manufacturer.
Right. And that's what a great way to put it, because some girls are on stage and that's all they are. They're manufactured. Mm-hmm. Their look is manufactured. Their mechanical movements, everything's manufactured. But the
head pop. That drives me crazy.
Okay, we're gonna say that.
Sorry, my bad. I jump all over the place. Everyone who knows me, we know this.
We did not let you do pet peeves for a reason.
For real.
But no, the head pop. But there's manufactured girls, but when you get a girl that you put her together and she get up on stage and just her natural warmth and beauty and personality eclipse the manufactured part, that's when you find a winner.
100%.
Right there.
And that really parallels too with a very important message. Celebrate your personal features. Just like you and Amanda have said in other things, like with your talent episode, do a talent that you're really good at that makes you shine. Do not try to do a look just because it's trendy or things like that. That's where girls kind of set themselves up, I think, for failure and give a lesser version of themselves. If you have really great eyes, play them up. If you have lovely lips that you want to pop and a little brighter shade works for you and still complements and is under the guidelines of a pageant, do that. Really celebrate yourself instead of focusing on things that I don't look like this girl, I don't look like that girl. Well, clearly you need therapy too. But if you and we support that and run all these tips by your therapist, girls. I'm all about that. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so get that checked.
They think you are sometimes. They think
you are.
Well,
I think any care service where you're a caring person and you feel for people, you can be in that situation. And me being behind the scenes so much and not liking to be like, this is a miracle I'm even here, but like not liking to be on the forefront, I really understand that with people. So if you do things that make you your safe space, because it needs to be your sanctuary.
Cory, you bring up a very interesting point, and I don't want to just gloss over it. You said it, but it is about embracing your imperfections. No one has a perfect face. The best way for you to go into any makeup artist room or chair is to be happy with who you are. Great. And it's okay to know what your imperfections are so that they can help you feel better about them. And when I say imperfections, it sounds like something terrible. It isn't. For example, if you have really small eyes, mm-hmm. and you have found an eyelash that works for you, or a makeup artist, because I know Cory does this, has taught you what eyelash you should wear, you should go out and buy that eyelash and take it with you. Don't depend on every makeup artist to have that eyelash. Because listen, if you've got small eyes, an eyelash is going to make or break you on stage. Another example we have is, we have so many girls with so many different skin tones. We have white girls and African-American girls and biracial girls. I tell girls, if you've got a unique skin tone, don't expect a makeup artist to have every color under the sun. Take your foundation with you and let them work with it.
And that is personally, I try to have every skin tone that I can blend, but I blend and I mix my colors to match on site.
But not every makeup artist can do that.
Not everybody does that. But if you habitually know that you are working with a makeup artist that does not normally work with your skin tone, there is nothing wrong. I have never been offended if a client had said, hey, I trust you, but this is what I normally use. What do you think about this? So we do one or two things. If their makeup isn't going to hold up on stage, but the color's right, that's a great guide for us to look to so we can upgrade to that, a better quality of makeup on stage, but with your color. But that is, yes.
And again, that goes back to what we were talking about, going in mentally prepared, knowing you're not going in anxious, going, well, what if they don't have my foundation? What if they don't have my eyelashes? Take them.
Yes.
Take 'em.
And sometimes, and I have clients that will come to me with that as well, and they'll say, oh, this is the lash I love to use. And I'll look at them like, okay, absolutely no problem if I believe it's correct. And if professionally I think that they could look better this way, I will show them and say, hey, well, what about this? And there's a way that you can show them without permanently putting it on there. And
Cory, how do you recommend girls? We're talking about keeping your mental stability through the whole process.
which is hugely important.
Getting your hair and makeup done to me is probably one of the most stressful parts on game day, because you've already gotten your gown and you've already lost the weight, or you've gotten your body in shape and you've picked out the right wardrobe. But that is the one thing that has to take place that day.
Correct.
And I've seen girls at a pageant. They've spent all this money to be in the pageant. They spent all this money on the wardrobe, and there's a complete meltdown with them and the makeup artist, because they'll send me pictures and they'll go, I look horrible. And I told the makeup artist, and they were like, well, that's what you're getting. So how do we get girls to go in a good mental capacity and also convey to that makeup artist, this is what I expect from you?
Correct. That is all in the pre-event consultation. There's a lot of time before a pageant to have those conversations with your makeup artist, so you make sure you're simpatico and on the same page. If I ever have a client that has an issue, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, let's talk about it. And if we disagree, we go through and understand why, because the goal is to make them feel their best. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because mentally, if you know you're a person that is not going to do well with a huge group of people, or if there's girls in the pageants, let's just be real, because I keep it real. Like, sometimes two girls that really can't stand each other are getting their hair and makeup done by the same person. That creates a tension that no one wants. We're there to lift up everybody. So if that's going to be the case for you, have your headphones. Have your music. Have your, if you have certain sensory things that you like to do, bring your fidget. Whatever works for you that's acceptable. Like if you have a huge, big comfort bear, I don't recommend taking that. But find a substitute or something like that can work with you that will really help you get along. And then also, like we've touched on before, find a makeup artist that will teach you a makeup class or practice your own. We just had a success story with a girl. She just needed a couple of tips. We worked with her. She won her state pageant. Now she's going off to Vegas because she needs to be, she's an amazing person. But just like any athlete or world level athlete, your preparation is huge and key. So mentally, if you're doing the things that you know are going to make you feel the best about yourself, that is what I suggest. If that's having someone else do it because you cannot do hair and makeup, do the little things that you can do to make it comfortable for you during the time.
We just had a girl that Cory and I worked collectively with. She has a tattoo. It did not show in any of her wardrobe except for swimsuit. And she wasn't comfortable. And she was like, I want to cut. She goes, I'm proud of it, but I want to cover it up for this pageant. And I felt like that was very admirable of her, because she was taking the risk factor of a judge not liking it off the table. So to put herself in a good positive mindset, she said, who can I go to help me cover this up correctly? And I said, well, Cory can do that. And y'all had a session on just how you couldn't even see it. And it was not a small tattoo.
It was a huge tattoo, but here's the thing. It was a beautiful tattoo. I was very conflicted because I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of huge body tattoos in a pageant, because I think some people can be prejudiced.
Well, they either like it or
that.
not.
And,
I agree.
That could affect your score. However, hers were so beautifully done. I'm like, personally, if I was a judge, I would love it because it was so exquisite. But we did cover it up just to be safe.
But for her positive well-being, she made the decision to cover it up. And that's what I was great that she voiced that concern early on in our preparation. So we weren't the day of the pageant and her going, do you think I should cover this up? Girl, you're getting ready to go on stage. We can't be covering this up, figuring this out at the last minute.
Correct. And I'm glad that you brought that up as well, because with tattoos, you need to have a plan, work with it, and communicate. And if you expect your makeup artist to do that, that really is an additional step, an additional time. You need to kind of have that planned and done on your own, or very much communicate that to your makeup artist, because you can't really show up that day and say, oh, by the way, I have this huge back tattoo. When we've allotted proper time to do really great work for every single client, that throws a big wrench in the plan, and that could actually cost you plus a lot of other people unneeded stress.
Well, we talk about the
Because that's happened to me several times.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I just have a little tattoo. Oh, okay, well, I can cover that. And then it's like half the back.
we talk about the client's positive stability. That is the quickest way to unbalance your makeup's artist's positive stability, is to throw a big back tattoo or a big tattoo on your rib cage out there at the last minute.
That we're
going,
not aware of.
Yeah, but we want this covered up. Okay, well, this was something that should have been agreed upon. Also, don't come to us, not come to us, but don't come to your makeup artist to fix a bad spray tan. That should be something that you should be happy with your spray tan long before you get to the makeup artist.
Correct. And that goes back to proper prep, like we were talking about, like a Pageant 911 and a Prep 911. Do a trial with your spray tan. Understand the sleep conditions. If you're going to be traveling to a different climate and you tend to sweat, and I'm not trying to be over information, but we're talking real here. A lot of girls that are especially a little bit more developed and have more bust. And if you're a side sleeper, and if you don't do things properly that night, you're going to sweat your tan off. Like, there's so many things. So obviously your makeup artist would love to help you if there's, you know, a situation, but you can't just depend that, oh, we're going to have the time for that.
The other thing too is I think girls are so hyped up. I love that we're talking about the emotional roller coaster of getting ready, because
I live on an emotional
well, we
roller
always talk
coaster,
about.
so I'm aware.
Well, we always talk about the tips on best wardrobe and best makeup and this, but we don't talk about it is one live show, so it's a big emotional roller coaster. I've seen girls sit down in that makeup chair and be so excited, and then they plummet. And then they have nothing left by the time they go to get on stage. It's also about pacing your excitement.
And it's about knowing your nutrition. I mean, there's so much that goes into this, but it's the things that you can control, especially if you're the type A, control the things you can control. Make sure you're eating your snacks, because if you get fatigued, that does wear on your mental status as well. And then you get foggy, and then you're looking at your makeup artist and hair team, who you probably really bond with, because we love our clients and we have the best time, but you can't just depend on those people to fill your cup when they're there just to make you look freaking amazing. I was gonna say faux pas. The biggest faux pas is to just rely on them for something that's beyond. I mean, you do get a lot from a lot of artists. We have a lot of great people.
Was that delayed?
Another reason we're divorced. He can't take me anywhere.
Okay,
so.
yeah, no, we can dress you up though. We can dress you up. Another thing I think on the emotional roller coaster is girls have to understand in advance whether you can or cannot be backstage with them.
Correct.
Because I've had girls, I've seen you do girls, and they look amazing and they're getting ready to go to their pageant, and you can't go with them, and they'll go, and they immediately go, this is just never going to look like this on stage. I can't maintain it. I can't. You got to get out of that mindset long before you're about to go to the pageant.
10 years ago, that might have given a little bit more weight, where I would have said, well, I understand it. Nowadays, they have so many phenomenal products that even our super oily girls, and I used to be one, so I get it, but you get older, you dry out. Anyway, not the time for that. Sorry, overshare alert, overshare. But now there's wonderful products that you can have backstage, and there's things that you can prepare, like we were saying, and have in that kit, so you will look amazing, and you can keep that flawless look the whole time.
Cory, as we talk about the emotional roller coaster of the pre-prep and getting ready for a pageant, like I said, because by the time they get to you on pageant day, they've already done months, if not weeks, if not months of prep to be at this pageant. What do you find is the number one thing that girls obsess over on the day they show up?
That is really individualized to the girl, but typically every client will have one thing. A lot of girls are really fixated on their hair. A lot of girls are really fixated on their lips, especially if they like to have bigger lips and they line it a certain way. So I would suggest if there's anything that you're hyper fixated on and you know that, that's something that in your pre-consult you should discuss and talk and communicate with your makeup artist. So we know, oh, okay, client A likes ABC, client B likes EDF.
Another thing I want to talk about going into the day of, game day. I call it game day. Going into game day and having a positive mindset. We're going to do Cory, Amanda, and I are all going to be on a podcast where we talk about cosmetic surgery and
yeah, that one's gonna be good.
enhancement. That's going to be a whole nother thing. However, when you're talking about going into that makeup room and being your best positive self, if you're going to have any cosmetic enhancement, it has to be way in advance to where you're comfortable with what you look at. If you go in and your lips are overfilled and you're not comfortable with that, your makeup artist can't make you feel good about that. They can help you cover it up.
Correct. Like if you get Botox and everything normally and you bruise, obviously let us know. We can combat that with color correction.
But I'm just saying that needs to be something that's handled way before you
For
come in.
instance, to answer that, that's a simple example is eyebrows. If you get your eyebrows waxed right before, it does remove the top layer of your skin. You can't see the definition of it. You need to get you need to have all of your hair off your face because then you'll see it. So we can dive into that more later.
Yep, when we do that.
But really with this, intention is everything. So do the things that you can do yourself to control how you are going to feel throughout a pageant with your makeup and your makeup looks and just open communication.
You hit the other thing too about nutrition. I've noticed that girls, they'll come in and from the very beginning, they don't eat anything and they don't drink anything. And it doesn't matter how positive you are and how great your makeup is if you physically run out of gas.
We've seen it time and time again, and I think this is a great way to end. If you don't do the proper work yourself and do things, we've seen girls that are really right up there and they're in the top 5 and they just give out because they get so obsessed with the weight number or I'm going to do this or how I'm going to eat. So that's why do the things that are going to make the pageant enjoyable, where you look great and you feel good. And it really is all about intent. And that really can help you protect your mindset if you're going into a pageant.
Cory's right. It should be a great experience and a fun experience. But it starts with you getting in the right mindset before you show up at the pageant. All right. This is Cyrus.
And Cory again.
And it's the Gowns and Crowns podcast. And remember, it is a world of beauty and a universe of possibilities. See you next time.